The identity property is a special property that describes what we can do to a number to get that same number back. So look over here at our kitten. Our cat is looking into the mirror, and the cat is seeing itself. It sees its identity in the mirror. What we're talking about is what we can do to any number. So that number might be 1, 2, 3, or 4. We're using a variable to represent it. What we can do to that number to get the same number back. Now, one example of an identity property is called the additive identity. And this, first, is the additive identity. 3 plus 0 is equal to what? Well, it's equal to 3, of course. If you add anything to 0 or add 0 to anything, you're going to get that same number. If we add 0 to 256, we're still going to get that same number. So this is the additive identity, the additive identity. There is a second identity called the multiplicative identity, and that is the fact that you can multiply any number times 1 and get that same number. For example, 7 times 1 is equal to what? Well, it's equal to 7, of course. What about 3,568 times 1? Yep, it's still the same number, 3,568. That is called the multiplicative identity. Multiplicative identity. So let's take a look at which examples down here at the bottom might be examples of the identity property. The letter A here shows us 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. Now, even though we start with the 0 here, we're still adding 0 to any number, and that is going to give the same number. So we have an example of the identity property. This is an example of the identity property. What about letter B? 3 times 0. We're multiplying by 0. Isn't that the identity property? Well, no, it's not, because 3 times 0 doesn't give me 3. It gives me 0. I don't want that. I want to get the same number back. I would have to get 3 over here instead of 0. This is not an example of the identity property. The letter C, 3 plus 0 is equal to 3. Well, any number added to 0 is itself. So this is an example of the identity property because you get your 3 back. How about D? 7 times 1 is equal to 4. Wait a minute. 7 times 1 is not equal to 4. 7 times 1 is equal to 7. Is that an example of the identity property? Yes, it is. Any number multiplied by 1 is itself. So 7 times 1 is equal to 7. That is an example of the identity property.